Your emotions are destroying your future. Right now. In this exact moment. And you don't even see it happening. Picture this. You're sitting with your family at dinner. Your father makes a comment about your grades, your career choice, your life decisions. Something small. Something he said 100 times before. But this time, the words hit differently. Your chest tightens. Heat floods your face. Before you can stop yourself, you snap back. Your voice is louder than you intended. The words are sharper than you meant. Within seconds, a peaceful meal turns into a battlefield. Your mother is silent. Your siblings look away. Your father's face hardens. And you sit there knowing you've just damaged something that will take weeks to repair. All because of 60 seconds you can't take back. Or maybe it's at college. Your friend posts something on their story. You see them hanging out with people they claimed were too busy to meet. Without you. Your mind starts racing. They lied. They don't value you. They never really cared. Within minutes, you've typed out a message. It's passive-aggressive. It's dripping with hurt disguised as indifference. You hit send before thinking. Now the friendship you've had for years is hanging by a thread. Because you couldn't sit with your feelings for even 5 minutes before reacting. Here's what's really happening. Every time you explode at your parents, every time you send that angry text, every time you quit something because it got hard and you felt overwhelmed, you're not just dealing with that one situation. You're training your brain. You're carving deeper grooves into neural pathways that make you weaker. More reactive. Less in control. Your brain is learning that emotions are orders to be followed immediately, not information to be processed wisely. And with each reaction, you're becoming more of a slave to feelings that were never meant to run your life. But here's what nobody tells you. This is not who you are. This is just a habit. A pattern that was formed without your conscious choice. And any habit can be broken. Any pattern can be rewritten. You are not condemned to spend your life as a passenger in your own mind, watching yourself say and do things you regret, wondering why you can't just stay calm when it matters most. This audiobook is going to show you exactly how to take back control. Not through willpower or positive thinking or pretending you don't feel what you feel. Through a complete system. A method that works in the exact moment when your heart is pounding and your thoughts are spinning and every instinct is screaming at you to react. You're going to learn why your brain sabotages you, what's actually happening in your nervous system during emotional hijacks, and most importantly, the precise steps to interrupt that process before it destroys what matters to you. By the time you finish listening, you will have the tools that separate people who are controlled by their emotions from people who use their emotions as fuel for better decisions. You'll know how to stay calm when your family pushes your buttons. How to think clearly when pressure is crushing everyone around you. How to respond with strength instead of reacting with weakness. This isn't theory. This is the operating system for your mind that you should have learned years ago. You need to understand something about your brain that will change everything. Your emotional reactions are not random. They're not a personality flaw. They're the result of a system that was designed for a world that no longer exists. Inside your skull right now, you have 2 decision-making systems running simultaneously. The first is ancient. Fast. Automatic. It's called your limbic system, and at its core sits a small structure called the amygdala. This is your alarm system. For your ancestors living in forests and caves, this system saved lives. When they saw movement in the bushes, they didn't have time to think. The amygdala would flood their body with chemicals, shut down rational thinking, and prepare them to either fight or run. Hesitation meant death. Instant reaction meant survival. But here's the problem. Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a physical threat and a social threat. It cannot distinguish between a tiger charging at you and your teacher criticizing your work in front of the class. Both situations trigger the exact same alarm. Both flood your system with the same stress hormones. Both shut down the same rational thinking centers. Your body is preparing you to fight for your life when all that's actually happening is someone said something you didn't like. The second system is your prefrontal cortex. This is the rational, thinking part of your brain. It's what makes you human instead of just another animal. It can plan for the future, consider consequences, override impulses, and make decisions based on logic instead of fear. But here's the critical part that nobody tells you. This system is slow. When your amygdala detects a threat and sounds the alarm, it takes over in milliseconds. Your prefrontal cortex needs several seconds to even process what's happening. By the time your rational brain shows up to the situation, your emotional brain has already taken control of your mouth, your hands, your decisions. This is why you say things you don't mean. This is why you make choices you regret. This is why, 5 minutes after an argument, you can see exactly what you should have said and done, but in the moment, you couldn't access that clarity. Your alarm system was running the show, and it only has 2 settings, attack or retreat. It doesn't do nuance. It doesn't do strategy. It just reacts. Now add the modern world to this ancient system. Your brain evolved to deal with maybe a handful of serious threats per month. A predator. A rival tribe. A dangerous situation. But today? You're getting notifications every few minutes. Messages that could contain criticism or rejection. Social media showing you everyone else's highlight reel while you're struggling. Academic pressure. Family expectations. Financial stress. Your amygdala is being triggered dozens of times per day, treating each one like a survival situation. Your nervous system is in a constant state of alert, which means you're always one small trigger away from an explosion. And every time you react emotionally instead of responding rationally, you're making the problem worse. You're training your amygdala to be even more sensitive. You're teaching your brain that these situations really are dangerous, which means next time it will react even faster and stronger. You're also weakening your prefrontal cortex because you're not giving it practice at taking control. Your brain is literally being rewired to make you more reactive, more emotional, more out of control. But here's what changes everything. You are not stuck with this pattern. Your brain is not fixed. Every choice you make, every time you pause instead of react, every moment you engage your rational brain instead of following your emotional impulses, you're building new pathways. You're training your prefrontal cortex to be stronger and faster. You're teaching your amygdala that these situations are not actually life-threatening, which gradually makes it less. Fighting your biology. This is about understanding your biology so you can work with it instead of being controlled by it. The reason you lose control is not because you're weak or broken. It's because you have old software running in a new world, and nobody ever taught you how to upgrade it. But now you know what's actually happening in your brain when you get triggered. And that knowledge is the first step toward taking back control. There are 4 types of people in this world when it comes to emotional control. 4 levels. And where you are right now is determining everything about your life, your relationships, your reputation, your future. Most people never move past the first level. They spend their entire lives there, wondering why everything feels so hard. Level 1 is automatic explosion. This is where you react without even knowing you're reacting. Someone says something that bothers you, and the words are out of your mouth before you even register what's happening. Your girlfriend looks at her phone during a conversation, and you're already accusing her of not caring. Your parents compare you to someone else, and you're slamming doors before you can think. At this level, there is zero gap between trigger and response. You are completely controlled by whatever you feel in the moment. People at level 1 believe their emotions are facts. They say things like, "I couldn't help it," or "they made me angry," or "anyone would have reacted that way." They genuinely think their responses are justified because the feeling was so strong. What they don't realize is that everyone around them is walking on eggshells. Nobody trusts them in important moments because nobody knows which version of them will show up. They lose opportunities because people don't want to work with someone who might explode under pressure. They damage relationships that took years to build with reactions that take seconds. And the worst part is they can see it happening, but they feel powerless to stop it. Level 2 is conscious explosion. This is where you know you're about to react emotionally. You can feel it building. You recognize that what you're about to say or do might be something you'll regret. But you do it anyway because in that moment, it feels justified. You tell yourself this situation is different. This time, they really did cross the line. This time, your reaction is warranted. You feel the anger rising and you choose to let it out because holding it in feels impossible. People at level 2 have awareness but no control. They see the gap between trigger and response, but they don't use it. They know better, but they don't do better. After the explosion, they feel guilty. They apologize. They promise themselves and others that next time will be different. But next time comes and the same pattern repeats. This level is actually more frustrating than level 1 because you can see yourself making the mistake while you're making it. You're watching yourself destroy things you care about in slow motion, fully aware of what you're doing, but somehow unable to stop. Level 3 is conscious response. This is where real power begins. At this level, you feel the emotion just as strongly as before. The anger, the hurt, the frustration, it's all there. But you've learned to create space between what you feel and how you respond. You recognize that emotions are information, not instructions. You can be angry without acting angry. You can feel anxious without running away. You can be disappointed without making everyone around you miserable. People at level 3 have a different internal dialogue. When they feel triggered, they pause. They breathe. They ask themselves what response will serve their long-term goals, not just their immediate feelings. They can have a disagreement without it becoming a war. They can receive criticism without getting defensive. They can feel disrespected and still respond with dignity. Others see them as mature, reliable, trustworthy. They get promoted. They maintain strong relationships. They have influence because people know they won't lose control when things get difficult. Level 4 is emotional alchemy. This is mastery. At this level, you don't just manage your emotions, you transform them. You take anger and channel it into motivation. You take fear and turn it into focus. You take disappointment and convert it into curiosity about what you can learn. You've trained your mind so well that negative emotions become fuel instead of obstacles. You've restructured your entire relationship with difficulty to the point where challenges don't drain you, they energize you. People at level 4 are rare. They're the ones who stay calm in chaos. Who make clear decisions when everyone else is panicking. Who turn setbacks into comebacks. They've done so much work on themselves that their default state is centered, regardless of external circumstances. They don't just react less, they've actually changed what triggers them in the first place. They've rebuilt their entire emotional operating system from the ground up. Right now, look at your life honestly. When your father criticizes you, how do you respond? When your friend ignores your message, what do you do? When you get a bad grade or things don't go your way, what happens to your behavior? Don't lie to yourself. Don't make excuses. Just see clearly which level you're living at. If you're at level 1 or 2, you're losing. Every single day, you're paying a price you can't even calculate. Relationships you could have built. Opportunities you could have seized. Respect you could have earned. All of it slipping away because you can't control yourself when it matters. But here's what you need to understand. You're not stuck there. Every person at level 3 or 4 started where you are right now. The only difference is they decided to change and then did the work. The question is simple. Which level will you choose to live at after today? You need a method. Something you can use in the exact moment when your heart is pounding and your thoughts are racing and every cell in your body is screaming at you to react. Not theory. Not motivation. A practical tool you can deploy in real time when everything is falling apart. This is the break method. 5 steps that interrupt the automatic reaction and give your rational brain time to take control. You're going to memorize this. You're going to practice this. And you're going to use it every single time you feel that familiar surge of emotion rising. B stands for body freeze. The instant you notice you're triggered, and I mean the very first sign, whether it's your heart rate increasing, your jaw clenching, heat in your face, or tension in your chest, you physically stop whatever you're doing. If you're typing a message, take your hands off the phone. If you're in an argument, close your mouth mid-sentence. If you're about to walk out of the room, plant your feet. This physical stopping sends a signal to your brain that you're taking control. It breaks the automatic chain between feeling and action. Most people skip this step because they don't think they need it. They do. Without physically stopping, everything else fails. R stands for regulate breathing. Your breathing controls your nervous system. When you're emotionally hijacked, your breathing becomes fast and shallow, which keeps you in fight or flight mode. You need to deliberately override this. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Breathe out through your mouth for 6 counts. The longer exhale is crucial, it activates the calming part of your nervous system. Do this at least 3 times. Don't rush it. Your rational brain cannot come online while your body is in panic mode. This breathing pattern is what brings you back from the edge. E stands for examine the story. Now that you've stopped the action and started calming your body, you need to look at what your mind is telling you. Because here's what most people don't realize, you're not reacting to what actually happened. You're reacting to the story you're telling yourself about what happened. Your friend didn't reply to your message. The fact is they didn't reply. The story is, they're ignoring me because they don't care about me. Your teacher criticized your work. The fact is they gave feedback. The story is, they think I'm stupid and they're trying to embarrass me in front of everyone. See the difference? The story is what creates the emotional charge, not the actual event. So in this step, you examine your story. Ask yourself, what am I telling myself about what just happened? What am I assuming about their intentions, their feelings, their view of me? Then force yourself to come up with at least 2 other possible explanations. Maybe your friend didn't reply because they're busy, or their phone died, or they're dealing with their own problems. Maybe your teacher gave criticism because they actually see potential in you and want you to improve. You don't have to believe these alternative explanations. You just need to acknowledge that your first interpretation might not be the only one. This single step destroys most emotional reactions because you realize you're about to explode over something that might not even be true. A stands for ask the outcome question. This is where you reconnect with your long-term brain instead of your short-term emotion. Ask yourself, if I react the way I want to right now, what will be the outcome in 1 hour? Tomorrow? Next week? Will it solve the problem or create a bigger one? Will it bring me closer to the person I want to be or push me further away? If your goal is to have a good relationship with your parents, will yelling at them right now serve that goal? If your goal is to be respected by your peers, will sending that angry message help or hurt your reputation? This question forces you to think in terms of consequences instead of just feelings. Your emotional brain only cares about right now, releasing the tension, expressing the hurt, defending yourself. Your rational brain can see further. It knows that 5 minutes of emotional release can cost you 5 months of rebuilding trust. This step isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about choosing whether acting on those feelings will actually get you what you want. K stands for keep or change. This is your decision point. Based on everything you've just done, stopping your body, regulating your breathing, examining your story, thinking about outcomes, you now choose. Do you keep the response you were about to make, or do you change it? Sometimes, after going through this process, you realize your initial reaction was actually appropriate. The situation really does require you to speak up or set a boundary. But now you're doing it from a place of clarity, not chaos. Your words will be more effective because they're strategic, not emotional. Most of the time, though, you'll choose to change your response. You'll realize that what you were about to say or do was driven by fear, insecurity, or hurt, not by your actual values or goals. So you choose something different. Maybe you choose to ask a calm question instead of making an accusation. Maybe you choose to take a walk instead of continuing an argument. Maybe you choose to wait until tomorrow to have the conversation when you're not flooded with emotion. The power isn't in always staying silent. The power is in consciously choosing your response instead of being hijacked by your feelings. Let me show you how this works in real life. You're studying for an exam. Your mother walks in and makes a comment about how you should have started earlier, how you always leave things to the last minute. Instantly, you feel your body tense. The urge to snap back is overwhelming. But instead, you break. You stop what you're doing. You take 3 deep breaths. You examine the story. She thinks I'm lazy and irresponsible. Then you consider alternatives. Maybe she's just worried about me, maybe she's stressed about something else. You ask about outcomes. If I yell at her, we'll both be upset and I won't be able to study anyway. So you keep or change. You choose to say calmly, I know, Mom. I'm handling it. I'll be okay. 5 seconds. That's all it took. And you just prevented an explosion that would have ruined your entire night. This method only works if you practice it. Not just when you're triggered, but before you're triggered. Run through it mentally. Think of situations that usually set you off and rehearse using break. Because when the real moment comes, you won't have time to think about what the steps are. It needs to be automatic. The more you use it, the faster it becomes. Eventually, the gap between trigger and response becomes so natural that you barely notice it happening. That's when you've truly taken back control. The skill you need to develop is generating multiple interpretations for any situation. When something triggers you, force yourself to come up with at least 3 different ways to interpret what just happened. One interpretation more positive than your initial reaction. One more negative. One completely neutral. This isn't about lying to yourself or pretending everything is fine. This is about recognizing that your first interpretation is usually distorted by your emotional state and your insecurities. When you see that multiple explanations are possible, the emotional charge dissolves. You can't stay angry at someone when you realize you might be completely wrong about their intentions. The second tool is precision labeling. Your emotional vocabulary is probably terrible. You know you feel bad, but you can't distinguish between disappointment, frustration, anxiety, inadequacy, or anger. They all just register as upset. And this lack of precision makes it impossible to regulate your emotions effectively because you can't address what you can't accurately identify. Research shows that simply naming your emotion with precision reduces its intensity. When you feel something rising and you can say to yourself, this is anxiety about being judged, instead of just, I feel bad, something changes in your brain. The act of labeling activates your prefrontal cortex and reduces activity in your amygdala. You're literally dampening the emotional reaction just by naming it accurately. Start building a more sophisticated emotional vocabulary. When you feel bad, get specific. Are you feeling anxious about the future, or disappointed about the past? Are you feeling anger because someone crossed a boundary, or hurt because you feel unimportant? Are you feeling inadequate because you're comparing yourself to others, or exhausted because you're pushing too hard? The more precisely you can identify what you're feeling, the more power you have over it. It stops being this overwhelming wave that crashes over you and becomes something you can observe, understand, and work with. The third tool is somatic discharge. Your emotions don't just live in your mind. They live in your body. When you get triggered, stress hormones flood your system. Your muscles tense. Your heart rate increases. Energy builds up, preparing you for action. If you don't give that energy somewhere to go, it stays trapped in your body, keeping you in an activated state for hours or even days. This is why sometimes you can't think your way out of an emotional state. You can use all the cognitive tools in the world, but if your body is still flooded with stress chemicals, you'll continue feeling agitated. You need to physically discharge the energy. And there are specific ways to do this that work immediately. Progressive muscle relaxation is one method. Starting from your toes and moving up to your head, deliberately tense each muscle group for 5 seconds, then release and notice the relaxation. This helps your body release the tension that's been building. Cold exposure is another. Splashing cold water on your face or taking a cold shower activates your parasympathetic nervous system and forces your body to calm down. Even simple movement works. When you're emotionally charged, go for a fast walk, do push-ups, shake your body. Give the energy somewhere to go instead of letting it burn through your system. The key is recognizing that emotional regulation isn't just a mental game. Your body and mind are connected. If you only work on changing your thoughts while ignoring what's happening in your body, you'll always be fighting an uphill battle. But when you combine cognitive tools with somatic tools, you have complete control over your state. Here's how you use all three together. Something triggers you. You feel the emotion rising. First, you label it with precision. This is anger mixed with embarrassment because I feel disrespected in public. Already, just naming it reduces its power. Second, you reframe the situation. Maybe they didn't realize how that would sound, maybe they're just careless with words, maybe this has nothing to do with me and everything to do with their own issues. The emotional charge continues to drop. Third, you discharge the physical energy. You step outside, you breathe deeply, you tense and release your muscles. Within minutes, you've gone from the edge of an explosion to a state where you can think clearly and respond effectively. These tools require practice. You won't master them by listening once. You need to experiment with them in real situations. Pick one trigger that happens regularly in your life and commit to using these tools every single time it occurs. Not sometimes. Every time. Track what works. Notice what changes. Build the skill through repetition until it becomes as automatic as your old reactive patterns used to be. This is how you reprogram yourself at a level that most people never reach. You're about to see why your emotions feel impossible to control some days and effortless on others. It has nothing to do with motivation or willpower. It has everything to do with the way you treat your body and your daily life. Emotional control is not just a mental skill. It is a physical state. When your system is exhausted, underfed, overstimulated, and never allowed to recover, even small problems feel like attacks. Your reactions are not just about what is happening, they are about what you have been doing to yourself for days, weeks, and months. Think about the nights you sleep late, scroll on your phone until your eyes burn, and wake up already tired. On those days, your patience is almost zero. A small comment from a parent feels like a huge insult. A minor inconvenience feels like a disaster. Your brain is not failing you. It is simply running on empty. Poor sleep makes your emotional alarm system hyperactive and your logical brain slow and foggy. You are asking your mind to stay calm in difficult situations while depriving it of the basic fuel it needs to function. Food and movement work the same way. When you skip meals, live on junk, or overload on sugar and caffeine, your blood sugar swings up and down all day. With every crash, your mood drops, your irritation rises, and your ability to think clearly disappears. When you barely move your body, all the stress you carry has nowhere to go. It settles into your muscles, your posture, your breathing. Your body becomes a container of unprocessed tension, and one small trigger is enough to make it spill over. That's not you being dramatic. That's a system that has never been given a chance to reset. Then there is the chaos of your daily environment. Constant notifications. Switching between apps, messages, videos, and tasks every few minutes. No clear start or end to your day. No rhythm. No recovery. Your brain is designed to handle intense effort followed by real rest. Instead, you give it shallow, scattered effort and zero true rest. The result is a mind that is always half tired, half distracted, and fully overwhelmed. In that state, emotional control becomes nearly impossible. You are trying to drive a high-performance car on dirty fuel and no maintenance, and then blaming the car when it breaks down. So here is the baseline you need if you want genuine emotional power, not just moments of luck. A consistent sleep window, going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, with enough hours to actually feel restored. Basic movement every single day. It doesn't have to be extreme, but your body must sweat, stretch, and release tension. Stable meals with real food and enough water. Your brain cannot stay calm if your energy keeps crashing. And boundaries with screens and notifications, specific times when you are allowed to be connected and times when you are completely unavailable. You cannot demand elite-level emotional control from a brain that is sleep-deprived, undernourished, overstimulated, and never trained. That is like expecting an athlete to break records while living on junk food and never practicing. If you want to stay composed when life hits hard, you must earn that ability with the way you live when everything is quiet. Treat your mind the way a champion treats their body, with discipline, respect, and non-negotiable standards. The quality of your reactions tomorrow is being built in how you sleep, eat, move, and recover tonight. There is another level beyond simply not overreacting. It is the level where stress doesn't just fail to break you, it actually makes you stronger. Emotional resilience is not built in the middle of a crisis. It is built before the crisis, in the way you train yourself to handle discomfort when nothing big is at stake. Just like muscles grow when you lift weights heavier than you are comfortable with, your emotional strength grows when you regularly face situations that stretch you, conversations you'd rather avoid, responsibilities that feel slightly too big, challenges that make you doubt yourself. When you have a clear sense of why you are doing all this, everything changes. If your only goal is to feel comfortable and avoid pain, you will always react badly when life gets hard. But when you know your values and your long-term goals, who you want to become, what kind of life you want to build, what impact you want to have, then every difficult moment becomes part of your training. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "How can this situation make me stronger, wiser, more disciplined?" Purpose turns stress into fuel. Your environment either supports this growth or kills it slowly. If you surround yourself with people who love drama, who explode at every small problem, who gossip, complain, and run from responsibility, you will start to mirror them, even if you don't want to. Their normal becomes your normal. On the other hand, when you choose to spend more time with people who are calm, focused, growth-oriented, and honest about their struggles without drowning in them, you get pulled upward. You start matching their standards. Emotional resilience is not built alone. It is built in the company you keep. There is another level beyond simply not overreacting. It is the level where stress doesn't just fail to break you, it actually makes you stronger. Emotional resilience is not built in the middle of a crisis. It is built before the crisis, in the way you train yourself to handle discomfort when nothing big is at stake. Just like muscles grow when you lift weights heavier than you are comfortable with, your emotional strength grows when you regularly face situations that stretch you, conversations you'd rather avoid, responsibilities that feel slightly too big, challenges that make you doubt yourself. When you have a clear sense of why you are doing all this, everything changes. If your only goal is to feel comfortable and avoid pain, you will always react badly when life gets hard. But when you know your values and your long-term goals, who you want to become, what kind of life you want to build, what impact you want to have, then every difficult moment becomes part of your training. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "How can this situation make me stronger, wiser, more disciplined?" Purpose turns stress into fuel. Your environment either supports this growth or kills it slowly. If you surround yourself with people who love drama, who explode at every small problem, who gossip, complain, and run from responsibility, you will start to mirror them, even if you don't want to. Their normal becomes your normal. On the other hand, when you choose to spend more time with people who are calm, focused, growth-oriented, and honest about their struggles without drowning in them, you get pulled upward. You start matching their standards. Emotional resilience is not built alone. It is built in the company you keep. Every time you pause instead of exploding, you are walking a new path. The first time, it feels unnatural, slow, and forced. You have to remind yourself to breathe, to question your story, to choose a different response. Your old pathway, the instant reaction, is still stronger. But if you keep choosing the new behavior, the brain starts wiring it in. Neurons that fire together, wire together. The calm response that once felt fake and forced starts to become easier. The outburst that once felt automatic starts to feel less natural. You can use this deliberately through emotional reps. Pick one common trigger, maybe criticism from a parent, being ignored online, or making a mistake in public. Decide in advance how you will respond differently next time. Write a simple script in your mind: when this happens, I will pause, breathe, say this sentence, and then step away. Then wait. The next time that trigger appears, you use your new script. You probably won't do it perfectly. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you are training a new pathway in live conditions. This is not magic. It is training. Just like learning a new sport, instrument, or language, your emotional patterns change slowly. Weeks, months, not days. At first, you will slip. You will react the old way and realize only afterward what you could have done differently. That is still progress, because now you see it. Then you will catch yourself halfway through the reaction. Then right before it starts. Then you will find that situations which used to control you barely move you anymore. That is the sign that your brain has rewired. All along this process, your future self is quietly forming. The version of you who stays calm when insulted. Who thinks clearly when others are drowning in emotion. Who doesn't destroy relationships or opportunities with one impulsive moment. That person is not a fantasy. They are the result of the reps you do today. And remember this: you will slip. You will still have days when you react, when you say things you regret, when old patterns return. That does not mean you have failed. It means you are human, and you are in training. Whenever you feel yourself slipping back into the old identity, come back here. Replay this journey in your mind. Listen again to the ideas that woke you up the first time. Let this become your reset button, your reminder of who you are choosing to become. Because your life will not be defined by one reaction, or even one bad day, but by the identity you practice, day after day, from this moment forward.